So that is the question that I'm posing this morning, is what's faith got to do with it? When talking about faith, my preferred route is to first define what faith is for our conversation. For our conversation this morning, faith is something that is believed with strong conviction, and demonstration of faith is accuracy and fidelity of one's promises with a sincerity of intention. Faith is something that is believed with strong conviction, and demonstration of faith is accuracy and fidelity of one's promises with a sincerity of intention. So what does that mean? The Unitarian Universalist Association collection of religious education curricula includes What Moves Us? A Unitarian Universalist Theology is an education series that's written by the Reverend Dr. Thandika. One of the workshops in this series is centered around Sophia Fawes and her theology of religious naturalism. The Reverend Doctor writes, Sophia Fawes described the origins of her own theology, her religious philosophy as life, as she put it, as an earnest attempt to learn how to lead worship services and religious education programs for children. She wanted these services to be based on the children's own experiences of life rather than on doctrine or creedal claims and other religious dogma children did not understand, but were nevertheless expected to learn, believe, mime, and regurgitate. She wanted children to have experiences that would lead them into the realm of religion. With this in mind, she called upon religious educators to strive for a deeper understanding of the motives and emotional biases that the children bring with them into their religious study. To help children find the emotional foundations of religious faith, Fawes insisted that she and fellow educators must first find these feelings within themselves. Only then, Fawes concluded, will religious educators have the experiences and skills required to not only ask, but also help children recall some of their own personal, unforgettable experiences, which they may not have labeled as religious, although they engender deeper and more expansive feelings, emotions, and thoughts than usual. For more than 80 years, Fawes developed and used her theology of religious naturalism to show religious educators how to discover and nurture the emotional foundations of their own liberal faith. Fawes called upon all of us to explore personal, unforgettable, emotional experiences with the questioning mind. She urged all of us to observe our own emotional feeling and track how our emotions become religious emotions. Sophia Fawes asked those wanting to be religious educators to examine their emotional relationship with faith. So what if we ask, as seekers of truth and meaning, ask those same things of ourselves and undertake the same examination of our emotional relationships with faith? So, for those who are willing to, I have an exercise. What we'll do is we'll close our eyes, clear our thoughts, and then I'm going to say a few words. You, if you choose, can pay attention to the ideas, images, and feelings those words bring to your mind and your body. So if you'll close your eyes, breathe in, breathe out, relax, clear your thoughts. Faith. Faith. Now hold your images, your ideas, and your feelings. Hold on to them as we move to the next word. We'll breathe in again and out. Relax. Religion. Religion. If you'll please open your eyes. So what ideas, images, or feelings come to you when you think of faith? How about when you think of religion? Did you find anything that surprised you? Next, we'll take a look at emotional experience attached to religious experiences. To be clear, when I use the term religious experience, I do not mean a mystical or subnatural or supernatural experience with something divine. For our purpose, religious experience means an encounter you've had with religion in some form or another that for you has an emotion attached. I'll share with you some of my early religious experience. When I was a child, I attended Catholic Mass, Sunday school, and church events with my family. Mass was boring for me as a child. I was not a fan. I had a very difficult time sitting still, and I spent most of my time looking backwards at the clock, waiting for communion so I could get up and move without encountering the disapproval of the people around me and my parents. Many of the emotions I had attached to religion were negative. They were associated with memories of being bored, feeling shame from the disapproval of those around me, feeling lots of anxiety, and tons of frustration. Sunday school and other religious education classes were also painfully boring. The adults were talking, and I was trying to pretend to listen. And then there was yoga. The priest had a meditation and yoga class designed for adults. My mom, who often lacked the luxury of having somebody to care for me, took me, at 7 and 8 years old, with her to the yoga class. And I, who under most circumstances couldn't sit still for more than a few minutes at a time, fell in love with yoga. And my mind and my body learned to fall silent. The adults in the class and the priest took some time to explain to me how to relax and clear my mind. They said if I became uncomfortable in a pose, I could move to another one, quietly. They smiled at me. The priest thanked me for coming, and people welcomed me back. For the first, and unfortunately one of the only times in my religious upbringing and experience, I had a positive emotion attached to my religious affiliation. When I reflect on the religious experience of those yoga classes, my emotional experience is one of joy and peace and calm. So now there's another exercise, very similar to the first. And I invite you to join me in the reflection. This time we will silently reflect on emotional experience that's attached to a religious experience, followed by an emotional experience with no religious connection. And we'll guide through this. So if you'll please close your eyes. Breathe in, breathe out, relax, and clear your thoughts. Think of an emotional experience you have that's attached to a religious experience. Are there feelings, ideas, or images attached to your thoughts or memories? Can you feel the feelings, see the images, and examine the ideas that have come to you? Now, can you recall those feelings? And do you resist those feelings, or do you embrace them? We're going to shift to now think of an emotional experience that has nothing to do with a religious experience. Perhaps running into a friend at a grocery store, starting a new job, or having a flat tire. Are there feelings, ideas, or images attached to your thoughts or memories? Can you feel those feelings, see the images, and examine those ideas that have come? Can you recall those feelings? Do you resist them? Do you embrace those feelings? If you'll open your eyes. So as our musical reflection begins, we'll take some time to personally reflect on the similarities and the differences between our emotional experiences with and without our religious connection. So this morning, we have experienced and reflected on some of our emotional connections and experiences with religion. So now, let's move on to faith. In the beginning of our morning, I asked you, what's faith got to do with it? Then I asked you to look at your emotional experiences with religion and your emotional experiences with something in general. Now, I will ask you to look at how you put your faith with actions. As Unitarian Universalists, we affirm 7 principles. These serve as a framework for faith exploration. They help us start our questions and our faith journeys, but they do not tell us how to accomplish a connection with faith or answer our questions. As the Reverend Barbara Wellston Hove explains, the principles are not dogma or doctrine, but rather a guide for those of us who choose to join and participate in Unitarian Universalist religious communities. We experience an ongoing exploration of our religion and faith development by exploring how we value and support the inherent worth and dignity of every person. We act on this by affirming, valuing, and respecting ourselves and others. We support one another in our community by taking action to support justice, equity, and compassion in human relations. We promote acceptance and encourage spiritual growth of one another with our support and our willingness to be open to each other's experiences. We encourage the free and responsible search for truth and meaning by keeping conversations going about important topics such as race, education, and privilege. We do this within our communities and within our congregation. We support the right of conscience and the use of the democratic process in our congregation and in society at large, even when we disagree with the outcomes. We participate with one another and other faith and non-faith related groups in promoting a goal of peace, liberty, and justice for all of the world community by examining our biases and how they stand with or against us in pursuit of this goal. We show respect for the interdependent web of all existence by recognizing the dangers of individualism, the dangers of oppression, and by working together to develop an understanding of ourselves as a culture and as a congregation. After we've looked at our biases, can we be more free to act in faith? Can we be more free of ourselves to examine our sometimes outdated, sometimes inaccurate, and sometimes completely made up ideas and information? Is this something we can use to continue our questions and move in a spirit of faith and love? For me, the answer is yes. For me, asking hard questions of my biases, my beliefs and ideas, followed by actions to challenge how and why I pursue faithful actions in some areas and not in others, prevents me from stagnating in my spirit and in my spiritual development. Within this congregation, we have opportunities to plug in with one another in a spiritual community. We can participate in offerings for spiritual development that are offered by MVUU, members and friends, and if we choose, we can take the lead to offer an opportunity for faith development within our congregation. As a Unitarian Universalist, I take an active role in my faith and spiritual development. I ask questions. And when I take action on the ideas of Sophia Foz to explore my biases and ideas, I can find some freedom from the parts of my human experience that stand in the way of the fidelity of my promises and the sincerity of my intentions. So today, in the spirit of Sophia Foz, we've observed our emotional feelings. We've noted how our emotions can become religious emotions. We've begun the exploration of how these emotions are similar in some areas, different in others, for the emotional experiences that are connected or not connected with religion. We've begun to look at how our biases and feelings may be standing in the way of our actions that let us connect with faith. We've explored one way to begin the process of examining emotional and spiritual biases that can prevent spiritual growth. From here, let us respect the inherent worth and dignity of one another as we encourage and support one another in experiencing freedom in our spiritual development as individuals and as a faith community.